Hello, busted. Just saw me drinking my tea, getting ready. Welcome. This is the Money Mindful Book Club for June. I am your host, Megan Jean Smith. Welcome. I will introduce myself while we're waiting for people to come in. So I am the host of this book club, obviously. I'm also the host of the Money Mindful podcast, and I am a money mindset and empowerment coach for women. What does that mean? It basically means that I help women with working out what their purpose is and how to create it, how to do it, how to get the results in their life. Welcome, welcome. Ella, hello. And Nidhi, I'm great, Nidhi. Good to see you. I've been loving looking at all your pictures of plants. I've got a bit of plant envy going on. Not gonna lie. Big fan of plants, and I'm a fan of your plants. Angelica, so great to see you. From Italy. I never know with you because sometimes when I see you on Instagram, it just looks like you're in these amazing different places and you're speaking different languages because you're so talented. Are you tuning in from Italy? Where's everybody tuning in from? Let me know. Bridie, hello. Yes, can't wait to discuss the book either. This is such a good one. So if you've just joined in, welcome. This is the Money Mindful Book Club, and tonight we are discussing, as it says on the banner, Millionaire Teacher by, I've got a mirror image by Andrew Hallam. Now, if you haven't already, check out the podcast that I did with Andrew last week. So this has been one of the most popular podcasts I have ever released, and for good reason, because Andrew's a really amazing guy. He, who's listened to it? Let me see. Let me know if you've heard it already. He is such a top bloke. I actually spoke to him for quite a few hours, and his wife, but off air, about a lot more things to do with shares. Unfortunately, we couldn't publish all of that because already the interview goes for longer than an hour, but there was just so much to cover, and he is so knowledgeable and also really inspiring. So if you haven't listened to that, please go ahead and check out that episode. It's episode 34 and it came out last week. Angelica says, yes, I'm in the Alps. So beautiful. Nidhi, great to see you too. Thanks so much. Yes, slowly growing your green tribe. Yeah, you've got some nice ones. What Monsteria, I think they're called, I've seen. Alice says, so excited, such a great book. I know, isn't it? Angelica, you haven't listened to the podcast. It's a must. If you want to invest in shares, listen to it, okay? Amy, hello, Amy, welcome. Some new faces here. Great to see you, Amy. Nidhi says, looking forward to discussing the inspirational book for investing, and I listened and loved the podcast. Yes, isn't he fantastic? Bridie says, it was a captivating interview. Loved the interview, Ella says. Linda says, I haven't listened yet, but I bought the book. Hello, Linda, welcome. Oh my gosh, Linda, prepare for your life to be changed. And I don't say this with what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I'm not just banging on about how good a book it is because I'm doing it for book club. Like, this book literally can be life-changing for you. Like, if you've never invested in shares or property, or you want to start a passive income for your retirement, really, sorry, I've got a mirror image. This is very disconcerting. I'm going to put this away because this is wigging me out. This book is incredible, and it actually gives you all the information that you need. And if you want to seek out some extra information, I just released a podcast this week that's got 4 books to do with investing, this one included, that you can get some, I guess, backup information and just expand on your knowledge a little bit, because this book is very much about investing in index funds. So you can buy index funds through exchange traded funds, or you can buy it in a fund from a low-cost provider like Vanguard, for example. It's not about investing in individual shares. So a lot of the feedback I've been getting this week on social media is people saying things like, oh, I don't know what shares to invest in. Well, you don't need to if you invest in an index fund, because you're actually investing across the whole share market, because it's replicating, if you will, I'm not sure if that's a proper terminology, the actual share market. So the shares that you hold in that index fund are made up of the shares that are in the share market that it's following. So, for example, you might be following the Australian Stock Exchange, or you might be following an index of a stock overseas, like the SP 500. There's lots of different ones, and you can get funds that have Australian and international index funds in them. Anyway, I'm getting ahead. If you've just joined us, welcome. I am your host, Megan Jean Smith. To get the most out of book club, just join in. And I'm loving that everybody's writing comments already. Please be kind and respectful of other people. It's almost like I don't need to say that, but just in case. Everyone is allowed their opinion. So let's just have a look at the comments. Alice says, I totally agree. This is life-changing. This book is what got me to make my first ever investment. And I think it's going to have a massive impact on my future. Heck yeah, Ella, totally. It will change your life. Okay, so I actually know Ella personally, and she's a little bit younger than me, and she's already investing now. So by the time she's in her 60s, happy days. You've just set yourself up for life, Ella. Good for you. I am so happy for you, really, truly. Bridie says, spreading the risk, no guessing. I love this strategy. Yeah, absolutely. So Linda, I'm wondering, have you had a chance to start reading the book yet? Let me know in the comments. All right, let me touch base with my notes so I don't get too distracted. Okay, so Angelica says, I'm a total beginner, but I'm super interested in investing. Megan, I am so grateful for you for doing these lives. Oh, you're welcome. Get the book. Angelica, if you haven't got the book already, truly get it. It's simple and it's not beyond the average person. And Andrew, I can't remember if he said this on the podcast, but he said to me that when he wrote the book, he wrote it and then gave it to people who knew nothing about investing to get feedback from them as to whether they could understand it or not. So you don't have to be some tricky financial person to understand it. Okay, so quick question before we get into the juicy bits. Who's in their pajamas? Who's drinking wine? I've got a hot lemon tea here. Linda says, I've only just started the book, literally the first chapter. Yep, good on you, Linda. I'm really keen on learning and have been thinking about shares for ages. I'm very green. Linda, this book's going to totally sort you out. Yep, truly. And listen to the podcast from last week. And then if you want to get some extra information, check out the podcast this week, because that gives you an extra 4 books. But really, an extra 3 books. You don't have to overwhelm yourself. Just start simply. Yeah, and also you can always reach out to me and I will answer your questions. That's what I'm here for. Yeah. Angelica says, I have this book available as part of my online book subscription. Oh, cool. Okay, so I can read it soon. Yeah. PJs for sure. Yes, Bridie, good on you. I'm in my Ugg boots as usual under the table. And I actually have a little blanket wrapped around me to stay warm. You can't see that. Professional up top, of course. Amy, in my gym clothes, and yes, I did a workout. Amy, where are you tuning in from, Amy? Are you from, does everyone want to say where they're tuning in from? I know that most of us know each other now, but it's kind of nice for new people like Amy to hear where everybody's from. Nidhi, in your gym clothes? Good for you. All right, so let's find out who's read the book. We've kind of covered that, haven't we? Linda's gotten started. Nidhi's read it in the past. Alla's read it. Bridie's read it. Amy, have you read the book? Nidhi's in Sydney. Angelica's in Italy. Yes, we're all jealous, of course. Amy, cool, you're in Sydney too. Nice one. I'm also south of Sydney. I'm sort of near a little town, a big town called Campbelltown. That's like our closest town. Linda's in Melbourne. Oh, surrounded by lockdown hotspots. Well, Linda, stay inside and just learn about investing in shares. Ella says, sitting in my lounge in Brunswick in my comfy velvet flares with a glass of wine. Nice. That's how we like to do book club. I love it. Bridie's in Melbourne. Amy's still waiting for her copy to arrive. Okay, Amy, well, you are right on time. You are not behind and you are exactly where you need to be. Just enjoy it when you get it. All right, so Andrew starts the book by talking about his frugal life in his 20s. He's actually, I think he told me he just turned 50. Either he just turned 50 or is in his 50s. So he's had a long time to build this portfolio of his. But he talks about how he used to ride his bike for ages to get to work and he wouldn't even put the heater on at home. So I'm curious if anyone is down with that kind of lifestyle to get really, I mean, in my opinion, it's quite extreme. To get savings, but hey, look, each their own, no judgment. But I know for me, like the life he described, I was like, no way. The heater's going on in winter, the air conditioning is going on in summer. Yeah, I could budget shop if I wanted to, increase my investment savings amount slightly, but the way that he described the way he lived didn't really appeal to me. What do you ladies think about that? Andy says, haven't read the book, but I do have wine. Perfect, Andy. Listen in, Andy, because you'll still be able to learn lots from this, even if you haven't read the book. Amy says, no, I like my little luxuries. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about just how you're prepared to live and what's important to you. And there's plenty of areas I think that you can save money, even like, I guess what some people call frugal would be another person's normal. I liked what Andrew talked about with buying a car. So for those of you who haven't read the book yet, he talks quite in detail actually about the savings from not buying cars brand new, getting cars secondhand, and really how much money you can save over the long term, especially if you're not going into debt to get a vehicle. There was some really helpful information on that. Ella says, I love riding my bike to work, but not for frugal reasons. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's okay to just live the life that we want, right? And what am I trying to say? Like, hunker down, if we're really wanting to save for something big. Yeah. Bridie says, I don't buy unnecessary things, but I am down for the heater. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you totally. Linda, as an artist, I know that lifestyle very well. Right. Okay. Nidhi, each to their own. I try to save wherever I can, though there are a few things which are tricky. Yeah. Yeah. Angelica, I'm totally okay with not having luxury for now. Knowing why I'm doing this makes me feel happy about savings. Yeah, and I definitely think it's where you are in your life too. So when Andrew was living that crazy frugal life, he was in his early 20s, which I don't know how old you all are, but I know that some of you definitely are not in your 20s anymore. And I think things change as we get older, right? Things that we used to do when we were at uni don't seem so appealing now. I'm sure you can relate. Andy says, we don't use our split system for heat because we prefer a wood fire where possible. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a lifestyle thing. Angelica, 28. Oh my gosh. Okay, this book is perfect for you because, I mean, it's perfect for anyone, even if you're not young. It's never too late to start. Okay, I'm not young. I'm in my 40s, okay? So, and I only started investing in shares in the last few years, but so what? Like, just because you're older, does that mean that you're not going to invest? Why? Like, you start when you're ready. I mean, how old are you planning to live till? You know, if I'm still alive in my 90s, I've still got another 50 years, right? So it's never too late to get started. Bridie says, a friend of mine just bought a brand new car and I couldn't hide my horror. By borrowing money, maybe, or maybe they bought it outright. You never know, Bridie. Okay, so what lifestyle changes are you willing to make or have you made already to grow your wealth? Nidhi, yeah, not so worth it in my opinion. I'm assuming you're talking about the buying the car, Nidhi. Yeah, it's interesting. Like when I can't remember if I said this on the podcast, but when we moved here, just recently, we moved to Sydney in January and I had a whole heap of tea. I don't actually drink tea that often, but I just made a decision that I wasn't going to buy any more tea until I used up the tea we had. Now it's June, well, it's almost July, and we moved here in January and I still have not used up all the tea. So I think there's really interesting aspects like that you can look at where you can save money. Whereas normally I would have just, when one of the teas ran out that I particularly like, I would have just gone and bought more. But because I guess actually it's not financial, it's more of I just don't want my cupboard like overflowing with stuff that is not getting used. But it really is interesting to me that I'm like, right, I haven't bought any new tea for 6 months. Like I'm still going through all this tea that we have. So it's interesting when you really look at things deliberately, what you can save money on. Andy says, agree, could never justify it, but different strokes for different folks. Yeah, yeah. Yes, okay, Nidhi, so you were talking about the car. Oh, Bridie, they borrowed the money. Yeah, such a big expense, borrowing money for a car. Yeah, if you know other ways to do it and you can buy secondhand, you can save a lot of money. Ella says, lucky I got to learn from your experience, Megan, so I could get started investing in at 30. Yeah, Ella, so good. So good. Angelica says, I love tea as well. Ella, I think I mentioned this at one of the last book clubs, but I just stopped buying new clothes. Oh, okay. No, I don't think you mentioned that. I don't remember that. Turns out you don't need them. Yeah, it's really, really interesting when you look at life from what I have, like I have this and I also want this, is a much different space to I don't have and I want this or I need this. Because when you take the time, I hope I'm making sense, but when you take the time to really appreciate what you do have in life, it's quite incredible. Like, especially in Western countries, we have so much, right? Like, how many t-shirts do you have? How many pairs of pants do you have? There's actually only 7 days in the week, right? So if you've got more than 7 t-shirts, which, look, you might be totally down with t-shirts and love them. You know, I know some people like right into sneakers, you know, and they have like 15 different pairs of sneakers. That's okay. It's not like you're not allowed to do that. But when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, I've got so many clothes that you could wear a different outfit every day for a month and still be wearing different clothes. Like, it's just really amazing to get your head around that, and then also look at it from a place where it's like, yes, I want to get this new beautiful item of clothing, and look at all this stuff that I have, not I need to get something because I don't have enough clothes. Andy says, same, Alice, staying at home made me realize how many clothes I have that I don't wear. Yeah. Nidhi, I have bought only 3 pieces of clothing in the past 12 months and they are pre-loved. I feel I have enough. Yeah. Yeah. Andy, I have so many clothes, my wardrobe is overflowing and I can't figure out what to get rid of. You just get rid of what you don't wear anymore. It's fine. Someone else will wear it. You send it to the op shop, or if it's got holes in it, you just chuck it out. Done. Okay, moving on. Let me check my questions. Okay, so who was already investing before they read the book? So was anyone already investing before they read? I invested years ago in, what was it called? The Telstra float. I think I'm showing my age there. Ella, that might have been, no, you were born at that stage. No, I'm pretty sure you were alive then. But it was a long time ago, okay, 100 years ago, before I had any grey hair. But I didn't continue to invest in shares over all that time. So when I got Andrew's book, I kind of rediscovered investing in shares. I learned a lot about investing earlier on, but I went down this really complex route, like learned all about options and hedge for like all this really complicated stuff that personally I think is just completely unnecessary and really risky as well. But back then I had no idea about index funds. And now that I've learned about index funds and I can see that it's so simple and so easy, it completely suits my lifestyle and makes complete sense to me, I've gone back to that stage of investing. And it's a way too that I can keep putting money into things where it's not like a big lump sum to go and buy a house, which is like, you know, a big deal, like, and takes months, whereas like you can just buy shares like that in an app. Let's see. Okay. Oh, going back to the clothes, Nid, he says, I've been doing some decluttering, a decluttering challenge, and I got rid of so much unnecessary stuff. Yep. Okay, so Bridie says she's only been investing in property. She knew nothing about shares and it was daunting before she read The Millionaire Teacher. Yeah, because when you think about having to work out what company to buy shares in, that is daunting because suddenly you have to be a researcher and go and look at all the data from companies and work out what their fundamentals are and what their like profit to loss ratio is and things like this. And I think that's what turns a lot of people off and what scares a lot of people away from investing in shares. And I think majority of the everyday person doesn't even know about index funds and how simple and easy it is. Amy says, I made my first $500 investment last week. In shares, Amy, I'm assuming? Nidhi said, I would say we did a bit just before reading the book and I'm glad I got into it and the book has only helped understand more. Yeah, yep. Amy says, I listened to the podcast for about 2 weeks and decided I just needed to get in. Oh my gosh, Amy, go you. Whoa, That's fantastic. Gee, you don't muck around. I love that. Andy says, I got shares at 21 and haven't added since, besides my dividends reinvesting. Yeah. So does everybody know what that means when you reinvest your dividends? So in case you don't, it means that some shares that you invest in, the company shares the profit with you. So you have, when you buy shares, you have a share in that company, so a piece of the pie. And because you own a piece of that pie, a piece of that company, the profits get, some of the profits get distributed amongst the shareholders. So that's what dividends are. And if you are investing in a company that gives out dividends, then you will receive an income from that, usually every 6 months or sometimes 12 months. And what you can do, depending on how you buy the shares, is you can elect to just get those dividends reinvested straight back in. So some companies, if you don't do that, they'll just send you a check. So depending on how many shares you'll have, you'll get a little check in the mail for, you know, a few $100s or a few $1,000s or whatever, if you've got like a lot invested. And a great way to compound the growth of your investments is to reinvest your dividends. And if you're not totally sure what I'm talking about, don't worry. It's completely normal to feel a bit, you know, confused when you're first learning something, but don't let that hold you back, because that will be explained in this book, I think, dividends, but it's just vocabulary, right? It just means profit that gets shared with you. Amy, you got an ETF? Yep, great. And via the Pocket. Is that the CommSec app? Great explanation of dividends. Thanks, Andy. Okay, so if you haven't invested already, who is going to invest in shares after reading this? Like invest in index funds or invest in just shares, like buying a particular company? And tell us why. What are your thoughts behind this? And what's convinced you? Like, what did you find out in the book, or what have you learned about shares that has made, you know, that decision, like you've decided, or decided not to? Maybe you've decided, no, it's not for me. Bridie says, I love Andrew's explanations of seemingly complicated concepts. Yeah. I love his okay, I can't say the word now. Explanation, that's what I'm trying to say, of the share market. And he uses the analogy of Willy Wonka's factory. And I won't go into it now because you can read it in the book, but yeah, he does. He makes it really simple and easy to understand, and you don't have to feel like an idiot, like it's, you know, really complex or that it's not available to the everyday person, because it totally is. Amy says, I would like to have a passive income future from shares. Yeah, me too. That's why I'm doing this. Nid, he says, I really like how he described to divide between shares versus bonds and how to change the ratio as you age. Yes. So one of the really fantastic things about this book, and I've got it, I think I bookmarked it. It's rule number 6. So it's from page 129. So Linda, this is for people like you who haven't read the book. Towards the back of the book, he clearly explains exactly how to invest in index funds, and then also how you can invest in different types of low-cost managed funds that spread your investment out over, for example, Australian index funds, international index funds, and bonds. So bonds are, if you're not already familiar, it's usually money that's borrowed, that the government is borrowing from you to do things with. So it's seen as a much safer investment, but you usually don't get as good as a return as you do with shares. But the reason why you would invest in bonds as well as shares is because it balances things out a little bit. Okay, so the share market is volatile. It does go up and down, but the reason why any investing is a risk. Okay, you could buy a house and the house could burn down. Right, any investment you make, there are risks that you take, but you take risks every day. Like when you walk, like when you get in your car and drive somewhere, you could have a car accident. I mean, life is full of risks. Okay, so I think it's kind of like sometimes we need to step back about this worry about how risky things are. But basically, okay, hang on, let me do it. Shares go up and down, up and down, up and down, but over like time, they just keep going up. Like if you look at graphs like over the last 100 years, for example, yes, there's dips, there's big dips. If you look at graphs currently, you will see the stock's going like this, and then they go like, it's gone like this since COVID. And I think it's on the way up now, but I haven't really been paying that much attention to it. This happens. So yes, my index fund is now worth less than it was like a couple of months ago, but I just have been continuing to buy shares in that fund, and the amount of shares that I've now been able to buy has increased because the share price is lower. And it doesn't matter because I'm not going to access those shares for at least 10 years. So there's a long time to continue to get that growth. Okay. Andy says, I haven't read the book, but after speaking with someone on the weekend about index funds, I'm keen to learn more and potentially invest. Yeah, I would get this book, Andy, definitely. And listen to Andrew's podcast from last week. And I think I said already at the start that this week I did a podcast that talks about another 3 books, including Andrew's books, that you can look at to give you a bit more of a rounded knowledge, and also to give you some of the language around investing if you are interested in buying individual company shares. Ella says, I was convinced to invest in an index fund to have an instantly diversified share portfolio. Yes. Also super keen to get into ETFs and try and go for some ethical ones. Okay, this is a good point and something I want to touch on. So for me, this is the only shortcoming when it comes to investing in index funds that follow the whole market, right? So at the moment, I invest in a fund that covers the Australian Stock Exchange and some international funds as well. But I'm invested in the whole of the Australian stock market. Okay, so that means that the companies that I think are good companies that I want to support, I'm invested in those, but I'm also invested in companies that I might not actually want to be invested in. So I'd be really interested to know, have any of you, is this a factor that any of you think about? Have you thought about wanting to invest ethically? And I haven't looked into it yet, but that is something that I want to look into to find out whether there is, a fund that is really diversified but is not covering the kind of yucky companies that you don't want to be investing in and supporting. Bridie says, I like the constant return over time of an index fund. Yes. And the fact that I don't have to pretend to be an economist to understand individual companies. Totally. I totally don't want to do that. I don't know if any of you guys heard the interview that I did with Sandra K. Stewart a couple of weeks back. She's awesome. She is like a serious investor and I have so much respect for her. she's investing in all individual companies. She invests in index funds like ETFs, but yeah, there's a lot more research involved, and she's investing every week. Now, I do not do that. I put a lot of research in a couple of years ago when I first invested in the share, and now I don't look at it. Like, I just put the money in once a month. I just deposit money every month because I do what's it called, dollar cost averaging. So it just, the same amount goes in every month. And yeah, that's it. I don't spend any other time on it. It's that easy. Yeah, once you get it set up. But if you want to invest in individual companies, oh yeah, you better do your research. Linda says, when I think about the wasteful ways I've used money in the past, it's a no-brainer to jump in and give this a go. Yeah. And Linda, when you can buy index funds through what's called buying an exchange traded fund. And you do that through using a broker, which you can do online, just using an online service like ComSec, like the app that you can do. You have to have a minimum of $500 to invest. And some people suggest, like, it's kind of like a common rule of thumb that people say invest a minimum of $1,000, because the money that you pay in fees, it eats into the profit if you invest in $500 amounts. So it's not to say you can't invest in $500 amounts, but when you leave it to get to $1,000, then you're not eating, like, using up that profit that you would make in the fees that you pay. If you want a fund like the one I've talked about, where you can just keep putting in every month, then you need to have like $5,000 minimum. But you can invest in exactly the same thing that I'm investing in, only in the form of an ETF. You'll understand more when you finish reading the book. Nidhi says, it will be interesting to find an ethical fund. Yeah. And truly, it's like life. You know, I know I don't have to explain it to you, but yeah, it is something that's on my attention that I really do want to look into. Amy says, the Comset Pocket has an ETF option called Sustainability Leaders. Okay, exposed to around 200 leading sustainable ethical companies. All right, there you go. Thank you, Amy. That's fantastic. All right, I'm definitely going to check that out. Nidhi says, thank you. Oh, yeah, thanks, Amy. Linda, I definitely prefer to invest ethically. We'll be on the lookout. Perhaps there's a gap in the market. Ethical index funds. Yeah. Does it work that way? Well, yeah. I mean, we can look into that Sustainability Leaders, because there's definitely no reason why you wouldn't be able to create a fund like that. I just haven't investigated. I know Vanguard, who I invest with, they were the ones who created the very first index fund, and they say very specifically on their website that they do not invest for ethical reasons or anything like that. They literally just follow the stock market. They create funds that are indexed against the companies in the stock market. So the only reason they're buying and selling shares is to keep their fund level with the stock market, and that's why their fees are so low. It's very minimal trading. They're only buying and selling things to keep it consistent with the stock market that it is following, if that makes sense. Okay, so what surprised you from reading the book? And I'll tell you what surprised me while I'm waiting for you to put the answers in. It really surprised me how simple it is. Like, it really is so simple. Like, you can go from being somebody who knows nothing about shares to reading this book and then go out and get yourself an index fund and be invested for your future. Now, I'm not suggesting that you just willy-nilly run out and invest in anything. Absolutely not. And also, this is a long-term investment, right? So, for example, when I invested, I honestly can't remember how long ago. It was like 18 months ago or something. But since then, the value of my fund has gone down because of COVID, right? But that has zero impact on me. It doesn't worry me in any way. In fact, it's kind of more exciting because now when I purchase more shares, I'm getting them at a much discounted, like a much cheaper rate. They're discounted. So for that same amount of money, I'm getting a lot more units in that fund. So when the share prices increase again, like I've got more units that I wouldn't have been able to buy if the share price was more, right? But I'm not accessing that fund, like I said, for a long time. So if you need access to that money in the next 5 years or the next year or two, don't do this. Don't invest your money, because if I went to sell my fund now, my shares, I would be losing money. Okay. But I haven't lost any money unless I sell. You only lose that money if you sell the shares. It's likewise, like when the price goes up, you've only actually made a profit if you sell the shares. So if you're in it for the long term, they can go up and down, and that's fine. Because by the time, 10, 15, 20 years when you access them, they're a lot higher in value, if that makes sense. Okay, so Alice says, yes, totally agree. With a bit of reading and research, you can become an investor and prepare yourself for your financial future in the long term. Yeah. So what surprised you? What was there anything in the book that just really stood out that surprised you? So I've just given you my example. And also I'll ask you while you're putting your answers in, when is it not a good time to invest? I think this is a really good point to be on top of. So I just talked about like if you need access to the money, but also if you're in consumer debt. So if you're in credit card debt where, the interest rate is 18% or 24%, all right, if you're in a fund where the average returns over 100 years are like 10%, that does not make sense to put your money into shares when you are paying 18 or 20 something percent on your credit card. So get your consumer debt paid off first. Houses where you live, it all depends. I have debt. I have lots of debt from investment properties, but that's all covered with investment properties. So that doesn't affect my cash flow. So that's fine. But if I had money sitting on my credit card, I would pay that off first before I was going to invest in shares. Bridie said, I was surprised that a layperson like me doesn't need an expensive broker and can start investing online. Yeah, it's so easy. Yeah, totally. And you can do it on an app on your phone. So I've only ever looked at the CommSec one. I don't know what the other banks are like, but I'm sure they're all really similar. Alice said, I was surprised that index funds in the US have lower fees than anywhere else in the world. Yes. Yeah. Like their fees are even lower than ours, which is pretty amazing. So I can't remember. I think I pay like 0.7%, or maybe it's 0.9. I can't remember, but it's pretty low. I know it's below 1%. See, these are the things, like I researched all this at the start and now I just don't look at it. And I know for some people that might seem like, what? You don't look at it, but I really don't, because why would I? The psychology, and I'd be interested to hear what you think about this. When the share price went down, if you already had shares, did that worry you? You know, like I deliberately, when the share price went down, did not look at my shares because I didn't want to have that feeling of like, oh, it's gone down, because, you know, it's that natural instinct to want to sell because it feels like you're losing money. But in actual fact, that's where everyone F's up, right? When it comes to stocks, because the share price goes up and everyone's like, woo, share prices are going up, let's buy, buy, buy. And they buy when the share prices are really expensive. And then when share prices are going down, everyone's like, oh, holy no, sell, sell, sell. And they're selling when the share prices are valued at the least amount. So it's like the opposite. You want to be buying shares when the share prices go down and just holding when the share prices go up. But if you're doing dollar cost averaging, you're buying all the time, like whether they're going up or down. Oh, hello. Surprised, but also not at some of the shifty key performance indicators that stockbrokers are incentivized by, which undermines the interest of the investor. Yes. Okay. So Andrew talked about this, and welcome. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is that Nagari? I've probably totally stuffed that up. Yeah. So what's the word I'm looking for? Financial advisors and people who, you know, sell funds, they need to get paid. Okay. So to get paid, that the way they are paid is that you are charged fees when you get financial advice and get a fund recommended to you. That financial advisor will usually get either a one-off commission, or they might get a trail fee like what mortgage brokers get. But the difference is, like with a mortgage broker, they're getting a trail fee, but that's being paid to them by the bank. Whereas with shares, that's coming out of your profit. So on the podcast last week, Andrew gave the example of, let's say the market returned 8% over the year, and you're in a low cost fund where you're getting charged like 0.5% or 1%, let's say, then you're getting a return of 7%. But if you're in a fund that charges you 2 or 2.5%, you're only getting 6% return, which over time, depending on how much money you've got invested, can literally be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's why I'm always saying this is totally doable. You can do it yourself. You don't need a financial advisor to be able to go and invest in shares once you have the knowledge, which is available in this book. Oh, like diary with an N. Nairi. Okay, Nairi. Thank you. Thank you for that. Welcome. Welcome to book club. New face. Where are you tuning in from, Nairi? Nidhi says you can't really time the market. No, you cannot. You cannot. Okay, let me get on to my next questions. Oh, yeah. So the fees, for those of you who have read it, did that really surprise you? Because that was one thing that really stood out to me when I looked through all the examples that Andrew gives in the book. It was really eye-opening. And I think also the little book of common sense investing, which I mentioned this week on the podcast, also runs a lot of models for you, like graphs, and what a difference just 1% even on your fees can make. And I'm also curious whether, oh, right, Bridie's sister, awesome, welcome. I'm also curious, has the information that you've learned in the book had an overflow effect onto other forms of your investment, like your superannuation? Because your superannuation most probably is invested in shares, yeah? And have you looked at that now because of this information that you know about the share market? Like, has that changed your view on your superannuation, or have you looked into whether you can change it, because, and if you haven't, that's just something to have in the back of your mind that maybe you can look into. There are certain super funds where you can actually choose directly, like to invest in index funds, for example. But be very careful, and this is an area where I would seek advice about, is before you go changing your super funds, especially if you aren't really young, like if you're a bit older, like older than 30, I would say, and beyond, don't just go and change your super fund willy-nilly. Check out the facts first, especially to do with your insurances, because you might have like a really good insurance in your super fund at the moment. I know we're getting a bit sidetracked, but because I've mentioned it, you might have an amazing deal with your insurance that you might be with a super fund that you've had since you were 22. And so the rate that you're paying on your super and the benefits that you get might be really great that you may not have access to if you change super funds. So just be aware of that when you're checking out, like if you're going to change. That's my hot tip. Bridie says, my gut has told me not to trust a broker advisor, and now I actually understand why. Interesting. And look, I'm not trying to badmouth brokers and advisors. Listen, everybody's got to get paid, but I think this information is just really important to be aware of. You know, have the facts, and also ask, you know, if you do go and see a financial advisor and they're going to recommend a fund to you, ask if they're investing in that fund. Because if they're not investing in the fund, there's your indicator. Yeah. Nairi says, yes, I look at my super since reading the book to check on its risk profile. Yeah, good, great, so good. Okay, so I've asked you those questions. So what do you like about investing in index funds? Those who now know about index funds and who know what it's about. What do you like about them, or what don't you like about them? Like, are you sold on index funds now, or do you want to continue to invest in individual company shares? Very curious to know this. I was very tempted to buy shares recently, went the big Australia banks, like especially when I saw share prices dropping from $90 a share to $60 a share, like thereabouts. I was like, whoa, amazing. But yeah, I just have kept putting the money into the fund. Yes, Ella says hands-off approach. Yes. Yeah. Like, it's so suitable. So Ella, are you going to continue to invest monthly or like on a regular basis into the fund, or have you just made like a big one-off payment and then you're going to leave it for a while? Fill us in on the details. And what about anyone else? Has anybody else got an index fund now that they're going to keep adding to? So Amy, I know you said you got an ETF, so you can't actually keep adding to that actual one that you got, but you can buy more of the same ETF, if that makes sense. Yeah. Nidhi says, I have invested in Vanguard ETFs and love how they allow bundle up much more than an individual share. Yeah. Don't have to look at it every now and then. Hang on, sorry. Don't have to look at it every now and then, in it for the long term. Yep. I agree. That's for me too. Ella says, yes, I've got a payment set up for each pay from now on. Oh, Ella, I feel so happy for you. I'm kind of like totally chuffed, if you can't see from my vibe. Super happy for you, super excited. Okay, and also, so from the information that Andrew gives in the book from page 129 onwards, where he talks about all the different funds around the world. So Angelica, I'm not sure what's available to you in Italy, but through this book, Andrew covers funds in Singapore, Canada, America, Australia, and was that it? I think that was it. So if you're in any of those countries, he actually gives like specific funds that you can invest in, and also strategies. So whether you're a conservative investor or high risk or low risk, or because at different stages of your life, it can be advised to invest in different ways. So if you're getting towards retirement where you're going to access that money, maybe you want to change your portfolio up a bit to be more conservative, because if there was a massive drop in the share market just before you're about to retire, like let's say somebody was retiring this year, that would be a real bummer if they had majority of their money in shares. But if it was balanced out over bonds and shares, they wouldn't take such a hit. Nairi says, wish I'd invested in shares a long time ago as much as I have in almond magnums. Nairi, so awesome. You seem like my kind of woman. Yeah, totally. Linda says, I tried investing in Tats Lotto for a while. Yeah, how did that work out? I don't know. It doesn't really work out, does it? The odds are against you. Amy says, my fave. What was your fave, Amy? Just elaborate, because I'm not sure, I've lost track of what I was asking. Okay, so as we get to moving into wrapping up, what was your biggest takeaway from the book? So, and also I'm curious, are there any aspects of the book that you still like a little bit vague about? Like you still want to find out more information on? And what's your biggest takeaway? And for those of you who are new tonight, you may not be aware that I have a background as a teacher. So you don't get away, you don't get off lightly here, okay? So you need to say, what are you going to do? So what action are you actually going to take after reading this book? Because we can read the book and it's all very nice and dreamy, thinking about index funds, but what are you actually going to do, okay? So write it in the comments, tell us. Maybe if you've already got shares, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to kick back and continue to put the money away. Or maybe if you haven't got around to it yet, you're going to get this book finished and make your first investment by when? The 30th of August, or maybe by the end of this year. That's your goal, that you're going to save $1,000 and invest by the end of the year. Tell us what you are going to do. The almond magnums, right. Nidhi says, it's not as scary as it looks. We can do it. Oh, you just jumped. You can do it if we research and read about it before stepping into it. Yeah, I need to look more into bonds. Yeah, that's an interesting area to research, especially if you've got children, because there's particular types of bonds which have all sorts of tax benefits if you're in a low tax bracket, and there's a whole heap of different regulations around them. Depending on what type of bonds you can get bonds where if you don't access them for 10 years, you pay really low tax. One of the books that explains that is, if I can remember it off the top of my head, I think it's Money Made Simple by Neil Whitaker. It's on my website anyway. If you go through the books, you'll see Money Made Simple. He talks about different types of bonds and the benefits of getting different ones, because depending on what your income bracket is, there's certain bonds that would be better to get than other ones, depending on how they structure the tax. Nari says, takeaway, so much to learn, but equally so much to look forward to. Yeah, also so positive to have women helping empower other women. F yeah. Yeah, totally. Women help other women. Sometimes I feel slightly self-conscious about talking about money, but not anymore. I feel like I've had that drummed out of me from doing the podcast. But women do good things with money. And a lot of what we see, what I think, is like the generalization of, capitalist white males, like companies destroying the world. Do you know what? That's not us. Like, that's not actually what we are going to do with our money, right? Are you going to go and burn down forests or, mine some sacred Aboriginal site? No, of course not. Of course you're not going to do that. Like, if you set yourself up financially, you're going to do really positive things, right? Like, am I wrong? Like, are you going to help your children with their education? Are you going to support causes that you feel passionate about? Are you going to buy from ethical stores, like small businesses that you want to support? Of course you are, right? Like, women like us need to earn more money and be good with money and do good things with money. Yeah, we have to empower ourselves first, but empower each other. 100%. Okay, Alice says, I want to understand ETFs better so I can make my next investment in them. Also reading more of your book recommendations. Yes, and you can buy any of the books through the website. Well, some you can't buy through the website, but if they're on the website, usually I will have a link to where you can get it. Bridie says, I'm going to research different online broker options like Vanguard. Yeah, Vanguard are fantastic, and I rang them lots of times when I was wanting to fully understand the fund that I was buying, and they were fantastic. Nidhi says, sure, we'll check it out. Thanks, Megan. Amy says, get into index and shares soon. Great. Amy, I binge listened to Money Mindful in just over a week. Oh, good on you, Amy. Well done. That's a good effort. I try to keep them short on purpose. Okay, so as we come to an end, it's been a pleasure again being with you tonight. I'm going to take a break from book club next month. I'm going away on holiday with my family in July, so I won't be doing book club, and I'm actually looking into doing it in different ways. So if you are really passionate about book club and you are loving it, please make the effort to message me or email me and tell me what you like about it, what you'd like to see change, because I'm looking at different ways of doing it. I might possibly start a group and do it within the group. So I'm very keen to hear your feedback. So I will have the month off next month, and I'll have time to develop it, and maybe I'll just come back in this format, but I'm looking at different ways to be able to give you more value and to create a nice intimate group. So please give me feedback on that. I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm just going to read the last couple of comments before we sign off. Linda said, I'll read the book and make an investment by the end of winter. Yes. This is great, Megan. Thank you. Linda, you are absolutely welcome. It's people just like you. You are the reason why I do this. Yeah? Bridie says, Andrew's comments on your podcast about the difference between male and female investors was a real eye-opener. Yes. Yeah. Take control of the money, ladies. Like all of it, at least 50%. I mean, that's what Andrew said. He said it's the guys who stuff it up. It's the women who stay the course, all right? We're good at this kind of stuff. Thanks, Linda. And, Nidhi says, what's the next book? Okay, so Nidhi, I'm taking a break over July. So I have a book in mind, but I'm not going to talk about it yet because I'm looking at doing book club in a different way. So I'm not sure if you caught what I said before, but please message me and let me know what you are loving about book club, what you want to see change, because I'm looking at maybe doing it slightly different. But no book club for July. Sorry to disappoint you, but I just did a episode yesterday with 3 more books that you can read on shares, and there's also heaps of books on the website that you can look at if you are looking for something to read next month. Ella says, happy investing, ladies. Yes, I think that's the perfect note to leave on. As always, if you want to stay in touch or find out more about Andrew's book, hang on, let me get fancy on you ladies. All the links for the podcast, Andrew's book, also the podcast show notes are all on this website here. And even if you just go to the Money Mindful website and you click on book club, you'll get to it. He shares a lot of links like in the podcast, which I've put up on the website, and also go check out his website. He is a wealth of information. All right. Have a beautiful month next month. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Looking forward to connect with you all again. Break for next month, but I will let you all know what's happening, how we're going to do this. I might be starting a group. We'll just, give me feedback, please. All right. Good night. Thank you.